I actually ended up liking this movie so much more than I thought I was going to. Let's do it. Blink Twice opens up with a disclaimer about how this movie is going to be about the abuse of power and depict SA, so fair warning. The movie then opens with this girl named Frida, and she is watching this apology video by this guy named Slater King. Slater King is a super fucking rich dude. He's like the CEO of this tech company, and we don't necessarily ever learn what his past behavior was, but we know that he's apologizing for it and saying he turned over a new leaf. Now, Frida and her friend Jess are servers, and they are working this event one night that Slater King is at. So they decide to dress up and pretend like they belong at the event, like they're not working it. Sure enough, Frida meets Slater King, and the two of them hit it off, and he invites her and Jess to his private island. At the event, Frida also meets Slater's therapist, Rich, and jokingly says to him, "Blink twice if I'm in danger." This whole group gets on this jet and goes out to this private island. This includes some of Slater's guy friends, Lucas, Cody, Tom, and Vic. And in addition to Frida and Jess, there's also Heather, Camilla, and Sarah. Slater's assistant, Stacy, is also there, and when they arrive to the island, she takes all their phones. Red flag number one. So Frida and the girls think that this is a dream. They all get their private rooms, they get these brand new clothes. Also in each room is this perfume that is made with this flower that grows specifically on this island. Now when Frida goes to her room, she encounters the maid who looks at Frida and just says "Red Rabbit." And Frida's super fucking confused about this. Also learn that Frida has this scar on her forehead, but she has no idea how she got it. But at first everything's great. The group starts partying and just engaging in absolute debauchery, drinking, drugs, the whole nine. But things start to get more and more strange, and Frida notices that all the workers on the island have the same snake tattoo, and there's these yellow snakes everywhere, and the maid just has to kill all of them. Frida also notices that these red bags are given to all the guests that come on the island, specifically the men. And one day, Rich, the therapist, shows up and gets a red bag. Frida goes up to Rich and says, "Hey, remember me? We met at the gala." He seems kind of confused by the fact that she remembers him. The group continues to party. Frida is like more and more infatuated with Slater. Then one night while they're partying, Jess gets bit by a snake. Everybody like kind of makes a joke out of it. Slater is like, "She's fine, they're not poisonous, she's not gonna die," and he kills the snake. So Jess starts to panic a little bit and starts to tell Frida, like, "I have a really bad feeling about what's going on here. I want to go home. I don't like this." But Frida's like, "No." She tells Jess, like, "This is the first time I've ever felt seen in my whole life. Like, please stay and do this with me." So reluctantly, Jess agrees to stay because she's a good fucking friend. Next day, Frida runs into the maid again and finds her with this glass of this bright green liquid, and she gives it to Frida to take a sip, which she does, and then the maid reveals to Frida that it's fucking snake venom. So Frida panics and runs away, but throughout the day, she starts to feel a little strange. At breakfast, the guys announce that they're going to go fishing, so the girls are going to be on their own. Well, Frida seems to be getting more and more uneasy, and while all the girls are hanging out by the pool, she says, "Hey, has anybody seen Jess?" The girls look at her like she's crazy and say, "Who's Jess?" Frida thinks she's going crazy until Sarah approaches her with Jess's lighter that she had been carrying with her the whole time. So Frida is like, okay, this proves that she was here, even though Sarah's like, "I have no memory of her." But Sarah starts to take Frida's side and is like, "I feel really weird about this place, and there's a lot of things that I can't remember." Sarah also discloses that her and the other girls, none of them know Slater King. They just met him by chance encounter like Frida did. And eventually Frida takes Sarah to this hut of all these red bags that she had found earlier. They discover that inside each bag is a bottle of that perfume that is made with the flower from the island. And the girls put together that this perfume that they've all been using, this flower in it, must be wiping their memories. Because Jess got bitten by a snake, because Frida drank the snake venom, that's why they're remembering. So Frida makes Sarah drink some of the snake venom too, and her memories start to slowly come back. And then they trick Heather and Camilla into drinking it as well by pretending they're doing shots. Now, eventually the memories start to come back, and it is revealed that the girls have all been repeatedly SA'd by the men. The perfume is being used to wipe their memories, so that's why none of them have any recollection of it. So Frida ends up sneaking into Slater's office to get all of their cell phones, but she finds that they're not working. In his office, Frida finds all of these photos of a bunch of other women as well as men smiling with their red fucking bags. So basically, Slater invites people to his island, including his own therapist, to come SA women, and then gifts them these bags of perfume so that they can do it themselves. The memories slowly continue to return to the women, and Jess remembers that she witnessed the men killing Jess because they knew that she got bit by a snake, and that means she would remember everything. So Frida and Sarah are trying to play it cool, but they are obviously fucking panicking. At dinner that night, Frida has another memory come back in which she remembers that Slater set up Rich to SA Frida, assuring him that she won't remember. All is well until Camilla and Heather start to have their memories return. Camilla, in a fit of rage, stabs Tom to death once she remembers him SAing her. And Heather manages to attack and injure Vic, who SA'd her, but before she's able to deliver the final blow, she is shot and killed by Slater's security guard. Slater also ends up killing Camilla before taking all of the remaining men to his villa to hide. The only one who seemingly had nothing to do with this is Lucas. He didn't partake in any of the SA, and his memories have also been erased. But Slater basically taunts him and is like, yeah, you didn't do anything. That's exactly it. You did nothing. You watched and you let it happen. Earlier, when the girls were all doing shots, Stacy showed up and decided to do shots with them, so she also drank the venom. And at this point, she attacks Frida because she's like, I didn't want to remember, like that's the point. And Frida ends up stabbing her to death in self-defense. Now, the security guard attempts to attack Frida, but then Sarah steps in and bludgeons him to death and takes his gun. She also kills Cody, who SA'd her when he runs into the woods. Lucas ends up opening the door to Slater's villa, and the girls immediately shoot him. Slater manages to capture Frida and tie her up in the villa. And at this point, he reveals to her, you've been here. You were here a year ago. And now Frida starts to remember and she has a flashback. A year prior, she was brought to the island and she had red rabbits on her nails. That's why the maid refers to her as Red Rabbit. And while she was trying to run from Slater, she fell and hit her head on a rock, which is how she got that scar. So Slater leaves Frida tied up to go find Sarah. When he comes back with Sarah, he hits his vape. A couple minutes later, he starts to panic because he sees all these bodies and Vic all bloodied. It turns out Frida put the perfume in his vape, which is making all of his memories flood back. Slater, in a panic, slips and knocks himself unconscious and also knocks over a candle, so the whole place starts to go up. We see Sarah and Frida outside watching the place burn. He left Vic inside to die, but it turns out they dragged out Slater and saved him. And Sarah asks Frida, are you sure this is a good idea? And Frida assures her, yes it is. We cut to some time later and we see that Slater is at another gala and he seems really disoriented, like he doesn't know who he is or where he is. He's approached by Rich and it seems like he doesn't remember Rich at all. Frida remembers Rich and she looks up and greets him. It turns out Frida is now married to Slater and she is also the CEO of his company. We see her give Slater some oil to put in his vape, which of course we know is the perfume. Frida has Rich removed from the event and then goes on stage to accept an award for her accomplishments for being CEO of the company, and the movie ends.